You're a whore, Peter. We watched I Love You Man, and this is what we had to say. Friendless Peter Clavin goes on a series of mandates to find a best man for his wedding. But when his Instabond with his new BFF puts a strain on his relationship with his fiancée, can the trio learn to live happily ever after? Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. So, yes, it's our Valentine's Day special, which means, of course, we've got to do a rom-com, and your votes meant that we are doing I Love You Man. So, joining me this week, will their bromance survive the Battle Royale? We've got Josef Boone and Paul Stritt. Also joining me is Vanash Reithapleal, and our guest this week, he's a screenwriter, he's a director, here to talk about his amazing films, Guardians and Dead on the Vine. We have Mark A.C. Brown. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Hello, thank you very much.
We'll get to talk to you all about your awesome projects later on in the episode, but first you've got to help us with reviewing I Love You Man. So, Josef, congratulations. Heat 2 winner. I think destroyed Paul is the correct term, I think, in Bridget Jones's Diary, I think. So, well done to you. Can you tell us, though, why did you pick this film?
Well, for me, I first and foremost, I love the film. I think it's my favorite rom-com, so obviously I had to pick it. And second of all, it's because almost every other rom-com, it's boy meets girl, they get together, boy does something, girl leaves, boy has to win her back, and it's such a formula, and it's just a bit boring. Whereas this one, I Love You Man, it's just about friendship as opposed to love. The whole love plot is on the sidelines. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, and it's just about romance and about just two guys being friends, and it's a really honest and quite, for me, accurate film of just how like friendships are, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Paul, commiserations. So, as you can see, Paul hasn't taken the loss well, and we're all quite concerned about how this is going to go and whether he's actually going to join in with us today. But Paul, can you tell us your first thoughts on I Love You Man?
Okay. All right. Well, if I'm being honest, when I sat down and watched this film, as I was watching it, the thought occurred to me, wow, this film is kind of perfect. It's kind of perfect. It's the kind of film that I would sit down and watch, on a night where I'm looking to chill and vibe, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I'd really love to watch a 2.5-star movie tonight. And it's perfect for that. It's middling at best. Its attempt at comedy is laughable. It's an inoffensive, middling of the road affair.
You liar! You liar! That is pure spite, for sure. I do not believe that you actually think that, Paul. I don't know. What, out of interest though, what is your favourite rom-com then?
My favourite rom-com is Bridget Jones's Diary, of course.
Yes, of course. Yes, for sure. V, what are your first thoughts on I Love You Man? And do you have a favourite rom-com as well?
Oh, a favourite rom-com. I was thinking about this, and I do like the Judd Apatow movies, but I have to say my classic go-to rom-com would probably be Clueless. Because it's one of those that people forget about, and it's just at the time when it was released, it was really popular, and it's just a feel-good movie. It's just a nice little rom-com with it's just the one for me. But in terms of I Love You Man, I actually really like this film. Sorry, Paul. I know I did vote for you in the heat, but I always vote for the underdog. You should know that by now. So
that's why I'm not angry at you.
I actually really like it, and I've seen it maybe about 3 or 4 times, and it's one of those films where it actually did make me laugh out loud. I'm one of those people where I just don't usually, when I find something funny, I kind of just like laugh to myself and I go, but like on the outside, I might look a bit dead, but inside I'm really enjoying it. But this one actually just really, it's just one of those films that you just laugh out loud. And me and my partner watched it and we were just, we found it hysterical.
Yeah. Mark, you're actually making the 100 Film Review Talk Show history today, believe it or not, because the film that you're here to promote, Guardians, is actually rated higher on IMDb than I Love You Man. So there you go. Round of applause, I think, is an order for that. There you go. So if anyone's got a right to trash the film, it's you, Mark. So there you go. There you go. So what are your first thoughts on I Love You Man?
I enjoyed it. I thought I'd seen it, but it turns out I'd got it mixed up with Role Models. Because I think
they do have a tendency to just bleed into one another, don't they? These middling, forgettable Paul Rudd films, don't they?
Well, in defense of Paul Rudd, I'm a big Paul Rudd fan, just not necessarily of all his films. This one, though, I really liked, but it's not without its problems. I mean, when I think about it, there's so much of it that is totally forgettable, but it did make me laugh out loud more than enough times for me to really appreciate it. I mean, I watched it with two very cynical human beings who were not expecting it to be enjoyable, and they pissed themselves on more than one occasion. So that was nice and surprising. It had moments of nice like observations about male friendship and stuff, but it was still kind of, there was a lot of it that I kind of, thinking back on, would either like to have seen more of, like J.K. Simmons always, and Jason Segel's character had no background whatsoever. So that was a bit weird. He was kind of this weird sort of specter of a human being in many ways. But I did enjoy it. I thought it was very funny. I thought there was some very nice things to be said about men and how stupid we are. And so I was satisfied.
Mm-hmm. And do you have a favorite rom-com out of interest?
Oh God, I've got loads. I mean, of recent times, not recent times, I would say. I think The Daddy is probably When Harry Met Sally, which is always a good one. I kind of quite like the oldies, like Preston Sturges ones, Sullivan's Travels, that kind of thing. Great McGinty, etc. Shaun of the Dead. Love Shaun of the Dead. So,
Yeah.
I'm easily pleased.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking to myself as well, rom-coms again are not really my thing. I know I seem to be saying this every week though, that things aren't my thing, but yeah. So I don't know why I'm the host of this show.
What is your thing, Craig? What kind of film is your thing?
I like just a good, solid film, and this is my point actually. I like a film that kind of transcends the genre. I mean, we talked about this before last season on like the horror Midsummer episode. That if it's a good film like Get Out, Midsummer, I don't care. I'm not a horror fan, but I really enjoyed those films. They're great films. And I think for me, if you're going to go for a great film in itself that is also a rom-com, you've got to go with something like About Time. So About Time, I would say, is probably my favorite rom-com because it's just a really, really good film. Good performances. Bill Nye is incredible in it. We've talked about it before, I think, on the Love Actually episode. But yeah, I'd go with that. Also, what I watched recently was Palm Springs. Has anyone seen Palm Springs? It was recently, I think it won Sundance or something, or did very well at Sundance or something like that last year. It was Andy.
Globe nominated.
Yeah, yes. So Andy Samberg and J.K. Simmons actually both in it. But it's like I would say it is a rom-com, but it's got a good twist to it. It's got like a kind of Groundhog Day kind of twist to it. So yeah, if it's a good film, then it's for me for sure, and it doesn't really matter what kind of genre it is. But yeah, that's what I would go with. But that being said, I love this film. I absolutely adore I Love You Man. It is one of my favorite films. I think it's easily in my top 10, 100% in my top 10. I think I've watched upwards of about five times, possibly closer to 10 times. Never get sick of it. I can watch it endlessly. So the reason for me that I really do enjoy it is that, as Josef was kind of saying, it's a different spin on the genre. It's about a bromance rather than a romance. But what I think it does really well is it winks at the formula of a rom-com so well. Like most of my notes are either quotes because it's such a quotable film, or I've gone like through like almost like a checklist of, you know, different aspects of a rom-com that the film winks at or does well, but with this different spin of being a bromance rather than a romance. So any rom-com begins, as we know, with the introduction to our protagonist, and it's like their quest to find love or the one or whatever it is. And I think actually for me, this is the part of the film that the film executes the best. I think it really, really nails the first wee bit, because with this bit, it has all the setup shots. It has all the shots you'd expect to see. You have Paul Rudd looking longingly at two guys walking along the street, and then the group of guys in the car, and you've got his brother trying to set him up on mandates and, you know, and all these things, and giving him advice on dating in inverted commas. And yeah, I think the main thing for me though is for this part of the film is the characters. I think this is a great ensemble piece. I think that every character, this is my opinion obviously, is very well written. I think every character is very distinct, and they all have their own little personality, and they're all funny in different ways. I think every actor in the film brings it. Like, everyone is funny, but everyone is also, as I said, funny in different ways. So that's why I think this part of the film really makes it for me. You've got Joe Latruglio, you know, doing the screechy voice guy. You've got the old guy who's lied about his picture on his profile and all these things, all these funny little checklist moments that you'd want to see in a rom-com. And yeah, and of course, we can't talk about this film without talking about Doug. Thomas Lennon's Doug. I mean, I think that is genuinely possibly my favorite performance in a comedy film of all time. I really, really like it. And the thing about it is he's on screen for about 5 minutes. Like his total screen time must be about 5 minutes, but he absolutely steals this film for me. And my favorite scene includes him, which we'll get to a bit later on. But yeah, that's my opinion on the first kind of chunk of the film, the first kind of portion of the rom-com formula. So Mark, I'll come to you if that's all right. Mark, how do you feel the film did in that opening kind of 10, 20 minutes? And did you empathize with Paul Rudd's character? Do you think the film managed to do that for you?
Yeah, I liked that, actually. I did like the setup of Paul Rudd's character. I thought that was well done. Nice shorthand. Didn't overplay it. And again, it was like you were saying before, it was something that you don't get to see often in a film, where like this guy's best friend's his mum, but not in a weird serial killer way or in a kind of sad way. It was just he's just in touch with his feminine side, and I found that quite refreshing, because, you know, I was raised by lots of women. You know, my household was, my aunties lived like virtually next door to me, so I appreciated that, and it did set up this whole thing of he doesn't have friends. He doesn't have friends because he's good with ladies, and not in a Lothario way. He just relates to women, and that has put him in good stead for many things, except having a best man. So yeah, I thought that was a nice setup. I thought they did that rather well.
Yeah. And this is the thing. It's good to see that as well. Like, it's good to see a guy being portrayed as a nice guy who's actually, you know, he's good. He's good to his girlfriend. He's a good boyfriend. Obviously, he goes down a bit of a path when he gets his best friend for the first time and stuff. But overall, he's a good guy, and that's good to see on screen for sure. And I think, yeah, definitely you can relate to him, because I think, especially if you think about it as a guy, I think a lot of guys could probably, or anyone could relate to the fact that as you get older, people kind of fall by the wayside. You're in a relationship, and then he just kind of realizes that actually he's got nobody he can call upon. He's not got a best man for his wedding. He's not got a groom's party, you know. So I think a lot of people could probably relate to that for sure. V, what about you? How did you feel about the opening part of the film?
Yeah, just to carry on from that, as a woman as well, I did relate to a lot of what he was going through. You know, I've moved around. Moved from city to city, and sometimes you move to a place and you don't have any friends, and you try and fit in, and you try your best to fit in, and you just try to fit in with the culture. You just don't come across well, and it's just an awful experience to go through. So I relate to that, and I also thought he was just the perfect boyfriend. You know, when he was just making the root beer floats and coming in with the the drinks, and you just felt so bad for him when they were just totally just bitching about him behind his back. But I was impressed about how he just knew how many exact friends there were there and how many root beers to make. And he actually made one, if you count them, he made one for himself as well, because there was one extra. So he expected to sit down and drink these drinks with them. So yeah, I thought it was really good. And he was totally relatable, poor guy. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, Joseph, Paul, anything to add on the introduction part before we move on?
I'll let Paul go first if he wants to.
I don't know if I have too much to say on this part of the film, but let's see if I try and recall through all the forgettableness. Let's see. Yes, he was the perfect boyfriend, you could say. A little too perfect for my liking, making the rest of us look bad, So I'm just, I'm gonna say, unrealistic expectations of a boyfriend. Perhaps is that what we'll say? I did find some of this quite funny at the start, particularly in later parts. Jon Favreau's character, I thought was very funny. But yes, okay, yes, I'll say my piece on that just now.
Me and you're gonna have a disciplinary meeting after this, Paul, for sure, after this episode. I tell you, honestly, torpedoing this episode. How dare you? Pulling rank like that. Okay, right, Joseph. Anything you've got a rebuttal for Paul? Please give us a rebuttal.
I think Paul's veiling his true feelings with criticism, and I think we know Paul sometimes struggles a wee bit to share his bit without this level of animosity. And quite frankly, I think he did really enjoy this film, and he doesn't think it is a 2.5-star film. And I think he really enjoyed that alternative setup to a rom-com where, the couple in the film, the more normative couple of the cis male man and woman, that's already been set up, that's done, that's by the wayside. And I think that Paul probably found that rather refreshing, as the rest of us did, and how that whole kerfuffle of, man meets woman is done. And I think it was refreshing to sort of see the immediate aftermath of the proposal and how they're sitting in. I think that's one of my favorite scenes in the film, where they're sitting in the car. Rashida Jones's character Zoe, her friends are on speakerphone and they don't know it, and you're just seeing them react to just this chat that people would have. And I think it's a nice sort of call forward to what happens later on in the film, how these conversations with friends start to cause a bit of bother, and it's just a really nice setup to a film, I think.
Yeah, totally agree. Very real conversation. I think that there's a lot of good improv, I think, probably moments in this film. I think the director probably gave them a lot of freedom to kind of express themselves. I think the writing's really good as well, actually. So it is quite believable dialogue, I think, which is something I always look for in a film for sure. And when I'm writing as well, definitely. So after our introduction, we always, in a rom-com, we move on to the usually happenstance meeting between our protagonist and the love interest. In this case, it is Peter Clavin meeting Sydney Fife for the first time. Sydney has attended Peter's open house and they meet. V, what is your opinion on the meeting part of this film?
Well, this part of the movie reminds me of that age-old saying, don't go looking for friendship. Friendship will find you and wander into your open house and eat all your buffet food. So as that exactly happens, I think it's a good spin on the whole romantic film, and it's kind of realistic in a way, because they just hit it off straight away, and it's because they don't go in with any expectations of meeting anyone, and Pete has given up on dating, and he's just like, oh, I'm not going to meet anyone. And he actually views this guy. Okay, he sees a guy alone at a buffet bar thinking, ooh, he's vulnerable, I'm going to go and chat to him. But he's doing it from a sale perspective. So he's being himself, and he just wants to go chat to this guy and sell his house. And Sydney as well, he just wants to be there because he just wants to eat the food, and he just wants to meet hot divorcees. And that's the only reason he's there. So there's no expectations there. So they just hit it off straight away. And I think Peter's actually, he sees something in him that he doesn't have. and he thinks, oh, this is how it's meant to be. This is just so easy. It's just so easy talking to him. And I think he appreciates the whole kind of helping him out with, his open house in terms of that couple who were there wasting their time, and the guy doing the secret farting away from his girlfriend and trying to impress his girlfriend. And that whole section is really funny, where he's like saying to his girlfriend, oh, you just go over there and I'll just walk over here and just do my look quite fat. So I think in terms of that, that's just kind of like a good spin on the romance side of it. But also after that, when he's got the guy's number and he's like, oh, I need to really speak to this guy. I really need to see him again. And he's just like, I think we've been in that situation where you've met a girl or a guy and you've got their number and you're like, yeah, I just need to get in touch and speak to them. So you plan it out, although by text probably. So you're there planning out your text and you writing it, rewriting it, deleting it. And finally you send this text off to them and you think, yeah, I did it. And then it's just this long bumbling piece of crap message that is just like, why did I send that? I don't know if this is accurate for you lot, but maybe.
Have you been looking at my phone, V?
Okay. Don't worry, I can relate. So
right
there you go. You send this big bumbling message off, and that's exactly what he does with a voicemail. He's prepping himself up. He's like, yeah, I'm going to go speak to him. It's going to be cool. And you just like, what does he say? He says, hi, Peter. I think he says hi to himself. He says, he doesn't even say Sydney. But magically, it works out. And obviously, because Sydney's an easygoing guy and sees something in him, and they just hit it off.
I think that is a real strength with the film as well. Again, my checklist was getting ticked off again. As you said, the awkward phone call, the leaving a ridiculous voicemail message. That's always in a rom-com for sure. And again, they'd put a really good spin on that for sure. I think Paul Rudd's really, really good at that kind of awkward comedy. I think he's very, very good at that. And again, from his improv background, you kind of see it in like Anchorman and films like that. He's really good, very quick. I think that kind of adds to the kind of scenes for sure. Joseph. Just out of interest, as I open this to everybody, but Joseph, if you want to kick us off, what do we think of Sidney Fife as a character of interest at this point?
I kind of agree with what Mark said about him being a little bit. We don't really know much about him. He is a bit of a spectre, isn't he? Just kind of like blows into Peter Calvin's life, and just is there, and he's this tour de force, and he just completely changes what is happening, what his circumstances are. I think it's honestly quite a great introduction to someone who is a friend character, because in the past couple of years I've met people who have just kind of like come into my life and I only know stuff about them that is from when I met them to now, and it's not for a lack of trying, it's just for like the sort of relationship that is. It's a very immediate one, and I think it's sort of very accurate of like the person Sidney is. He's not someone for you kind of get everything you need to know about him with like just how he is. He's not someone who dwells in the past really until we sort of learn a little bit more about him later on, and he's just really someone who likes to live and just like be in the moment, and he's that perfect antithesis to what Peter's character is. Someone who's a little bit more worrisome, a little bit more just a bit careful with how he's treading, and Sidney kind of opens him up a wee bit. I think Sidney's a cracking character. I'd love to play him. I don't think I could, but I'd love to have a go at it.
Mm-hmm. Paul, do you have anything to say at this point?
To be honest, no, I don't know if there's too much else to say about him at this point in the film. Sidney, he just turns up out of nowhere. He's like a tornado. He causes chaos around him everywhere, in a manner of speaking. He gives Paul Rudd all kinds of confidence, and as we get further into the film, Paul Rudd sort of returns that energy back to him, and then they sort of become this tour de force together. And they sort of bounce off one another and become really good pals, and it all makes me very sick.
But why does it make you very sick, Paul? Do you not want that? Do you not want?
Because I lost the vote, Joseph. That's why.
I don't know, but here's the thing, pal. Don't you want someone to bounce off of? You want someone there who's got your back, someone who's just picks you up when you can, and that's what Sidney does for Peter. And I'm sure, Paul, that you can agree that we do the same for each other.
Okay, well, As much as I hate to admit it, I can't say we do that to each other.
God, it's like therapy. Right, okay. Right, okay. Mark, do you think Sydney's a likable character?
Yeah, for the most part. I think that's mostly down to Jason Segel rather than the actual characterization. Because Jason Segel is a very likable chap, and in every film he's always lovely, playing these douchebags and stuff. He's always very sympathetic, and I think he does that very well. Because he's got quite a lot of obnoxious traits in this film that did sort of annoy me in their lack of explanation. Like, for instance, the cleaning up after the dog thing, which was I was like, I get it. It's like, oh, he's trying to, I'm free and I'll do whatever I want, etc. But it's still disgusting, isn't it? And I think his entrance was good. I think he made a very good entrance as a character, where he thought, yeah, this guy is the guy to change this other guy. And but it did irk me that his character kind of did not get any sort of depth as the film went on, other than the one bit where he goes for a hike with his mates. That was it. So I didn't get a lot of explanation of why he was this sort of weirdo, lonely guy ultimately. And so, but other than that, yeah, no, he was very enjoyable character.
Yeah,
I will say that, like Mark bringing that up, that's one of the notes I do have that I don't enjoy about the film. It's how, there is a change in Peter throughout the film. He does change a little bit, he becomes a little bit more outgoing. However, Sydney does stay the same. And when I remember first watching the film, kind of hoping that those really obnoxious traits that Sydney has kind of like gets curbed a little bit, like with the picking up after the dog. I kind of hope that he would start doing that, just because Peter does make a comment about it the first time.
Yeah.
And I think that, for me, that's what, if that had happened, the film would be perfect. Yeah, if he had changed as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of you. Yeah, for sure, totally agree with both of you. Yeah, for me, I think Mark's right. In different hands, I think the character could have gone too far the douchebag way, but Jason Segel was very, very likable, and I think he kind of the little bits of vulnerability kind of drip throughout the film. And I see your point. I see your point about the fact that he kind of should have had a little more of development in terms of the friend stuff. But I still kind of relate to him with that part with his friends, because again, it's coming back to that thing about empathizing with the character, about a guy getting to a certain age, or anyone getting to a certain age, your friends start to pair up, get married, have kids, and then you could be that person who's left behind. And that could be you. And then, as they say at the end, they both used each other, and they're both very lonely people, but for very different reasons. And I think that, yeah, as I said, Jason Segel does that very well. He just drip feeds in that little bits of vulnerability now and again, so that you do actually, he is a bit of an arsehole. He's a bit of an arsehole, but actually he's just lonely. Let's play our first game. So over to Paul for I Quote You, Man.
All right, here we go for I Quote You, Man. I scoured this film, and believe me, that was a lot of scouring, to find the best quotes. Now, imagine a bit similar to my tagline game, but instead I'm going to pick on one of you at a time, and you're going to have to pick out the right quote from the film. Okay? It'll be an A, B, or C. So I'll start off with Josef.
Bring it.
Josef, which of these is the correct quote? Is it A, "Hey there, Miss Muff Tuppence, wanna jump in my speedboat"? Is it B, "Hey there, Miss Money Pussy, wanna jump on my jetpack"? Or is it C, "Hey there, Miss Minge Penny, wanna jump in my spy car"?
I think it is B.
That is correct. Just always correct, aren't you, Joseph?
Not always, Paul. Not always.
Moving swiftly on. Number 2. I think I'll go with Mark. Mark. Which of these was the correct quote? I just don't see how having somebody piss on my face is going to help me sell Lou Ferrigno's house. Is it B? I just don't see how drinking a bottle of piss is going to help me sell Lou Ferrigno's house. Or is it C? I just don't see how pissing into this fish taco is going to help me sell Lou Ferrigno's house.
Okay, is it C?
No, I'm afraid it's A. I did throw in the fish taco as a red herring because there are fish tacos notoriously in this film. But there we go. I'm nice to see I can win here. So that's a point to me. Okay. Number 3 for V. Which of these is the correct quote? Is it A? This is the Cave of Wonders. There's no girls allowed in here. I got the genie jerking station, for God's sake. Is it B? This is the Bat Cave. There's no girls allowed in here. I got the bat jerking station, for God's sake. Or is it C? This is the Man Cave. There's no woman allowed in here. I got the jerk off station, for God's sake.
All very similar. Probably. Oh, I don't know. C.
Correct. It is, in fact, C.
Right, come on.
Very good.
Bring it on, Paul.
Okay.
Bring it on.
Now, I had to think. I had to think on this one because I knew if I quote any part of this film, you would get it anyway. So I thought, instead of quoting the spoken word, what if I quote the written words? So, which of these appeared on the second billboard that is shown in the billboard scene of the film? The second billboard. Is it A, Peter Clavin, licensed to sell? Is it B, he'll pimp your condo and your mama's too? Or is it C, fastest realtor in the West?
I know the James Bond one appears quite early in the montage. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with license to sell. No.
The answer is C, fastest realtor in the West. Yes! I win my own game.
I got them all right.
You,
in my head.
B, got it all right.
In my head.
Oh wait. Oh no, wait, it's 2 and 2, so it's a tie. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, unlucky, Paul. It's a shame. It's a shame. Honestly, pulling that on me. I hope you haven't interfered in one of Joseph's questions actually for later. We'll wait and see. So let's get back to our film chat. So we come to the main part of any rom-com. It's the falling in love. Everything's wonderful. Everything's rosy. So I'll come to Paul. Back to you, Paul, because I want you to find the love here, Paul. I want you to find the love in this film. So, Paul, what do you think? How did the film do at the falling in love section?
Okay, well, admittedly, this was maybe my favorite part of the film. Starting off straight away, on the beach scene, I feel is kind of where this sort of section starts, and they're walking along. Well, the Venice boardwalk scene, is walking along, and his dog takes a shit, and he doesn't pick it up. And I kind of feel like that is either a metaphor for the film or their relationship in itself. But there's a bonding thing. I did piss myself laughing when the guy steps on the shit. He's like, "Hey, you're gonna clean up after your dog," and he's just like, I did piss myself. And then he teaches him to scream, and he's slowly building up his confidence, because Peter Clavin is a man with not a lot of confidence, at least with another male, in getting friends and whatnot. So he's giving him confidence. And then I feel like this could have almost been a montage, because you've got screaming on the beach, they're slapping the bass together, they're playing the guitars, they both love Rush. They're doing he does the dog poop bit a second time a bit later on, and then he gets strangled by, chokehold by Lou Ferrigno. They go to the groom fitting, and then he's like, "Hey, can I borrow some cash?" And he's like, "Well, that's a bit weird." And immediately for me here, because I feel like this is sort of the ending part of the falling in love section, and he's like, for me, I started thinking, whoa, is this Sydney guy actually been playing him this whole time? Is he asking for the money because he's like some kind of grifter, and he's just saying, this guy, I can. But then, later on, it turns out to be something a bit different. So I thought overall, there's the golf scene as well. And I thought the golf scene was hilarious. I kind of love like I said before, the confidence that Paul Rudd's character gets from Sydney, and then the two of them bounce off each other, because I almost feel like Paul Rudd's character almost grounds Sydney a little bit, because Sydney will just fly, and Paul Rudd will sort of stay on the ground, and together they can both achieve a nice little middle ground area where they can sort of fly, not too high, not too close to the sun, but somewhere.
This part of the film contains my favourite scene in the whole thing, and of course it involves Doug. It's the James Bond moment when he's trying on the tuxedo. So one of the reasons why I love this film so much is because I first saw this film, I think, when I was at uni, and this is a great film to have watched with your flatmates, because then for the rest of uni it's just quoting this film back and forth, calling each other Jobin and Bromance and all these things for the rest of the time. So I have a bit of sentimental connection to it for sure. But the main reason is because of this scene. Oh my word. It was the taste of betrayal. It wasn't the taste of betrayal. It was a taste of betrayal. It wasn't a taste. It was a taste of betrayal, you fucking whore. That just fantastic. Back and forth. Thomas Lennon brings it, and then you got a whore Peter on the drive by. Absolutely brilliant. My favourite scene. So yeah, I've got a big soft spot for this part of the film for sure. Does anyone else have anything to add before we move on about the main kind of aspect of the film, the falling in love?
The fish taco scene, perfect scene. I love it. Because I remember watching this film, and I'm sorry, Craig, I'm going to make you feel old. I watched it in high school when it came out, and doing the same thing, started quoting it, but then I forgot about the film for ages until a video popped up for me online. Someone was remaking the fish tacos from I Love You Man, and I'm like, by this point, I was in uni, and I'm like, it's really sort of enjoying making food and stuff, so I try making it. And honestly, making your own tortillas, you never go back. And making fish tacos, it's so good, and it just sort of reinvigorated my love for the film. And sort of whenever I think about like that style of food, I think about I Love You Man, and sort of the feelings that it evokes. That sort of like, that rush of, you've found someone who's kind of just like you. And there's, like as Paul was saying, someone that's like a perfect match to keep you grounded as they sort of as you sort of try and fly high and that sort of thing. It's a wonderful series of scenes that could easily be a montage, but I like the fact they're drawn out and you get to see the little nuances, but as the friendship blossoms, like the whole James Bond bit. Like if you do go like suit fitting with your mates, just before all this kicked off, I was at a kilt fitting with some of my mates, and like it was the exact same thing. You're constantly digging at each other or like getting each other to do silly weird things while you're trying it on. So it's just such an accurate representation of how like cis male friendships are. Definitely.
I think it's good because this part of the film's made up of lots of little different sections like that, whether it's making little jabs at each other, getting into to antics. That's what I'm looking for. Antics. You're getting up to antics with your best bud, and whether from a different aspect, the little small scenes, but it shows off a different part of the relationship in each bit throughout that whole sort of middle section.
So it makes both the characters seem a lot more vulnerable as well, which you don't often see in rom-coms. You don't often see like the male character being that vulnerable, and they're just it starts with like them just being open and honest with each other, and that sort of scene could be paralleled in other rom-coms between like the two typical female characters instead. And it's nice to see that sort of the conversation that guys do have just being put up on the big screen. How that's an accurate representation of a lot of male friendships. How there is those sort of conversations. Maybe not in some of them like directly about masturbation, but like other ones that are just as sort of intimate about just like relationships and love lives and like hopes and fears and things like that. And I think that is why that midsection of the film is my favorite, just because of those scenes as well.
I mean, masturbation is kind of intimate. And we'll leave it there.
That's the soundbite.
Editing in my head. There we go. Okay. Moving swiftly on. So, obviously, by the way, that another bit I like about the film is obviously, I mean, I was a massive Rush fan back in those days. I loved Rush back in the day. Neil Peart on the drums and stuff. But yeah, it was great. I loved that cameo from him as well. Like, but it was good to see the connection. Like, that's something that happens in friendships. You have that. Oh, you like Rush. Oh, you like Rush. You have those little moments like that, and that's when you kind of develop that friendship. And I thought it was a really good touch to use that. But then they also used it as an actual plot point, and the stuff with Rashida Jones and and apparently Rush actually performed that set for the cast and crew. But also, like, a few diehard fans were invited along as well. It's a great little bit for sure. So, obviously, it can't last forever. It can't last forever. Always in these films, always in these rom-coms, something happens. The decline begins. Maybe there's a big argument. Maybe there's a breakup scene. So we get into the descent of this film. We have the big fallout, the big fight, and Paul kind of mentioned the kind of start point for that part was the money thing. Now, I actually find this quite interesting because for me, this is where the film has my negative points. I don't have many negative points for the film. The film is near perfect in this head here. But my negative points come towards the end of the film. I think the pacing is a little bit off. I feel like we spend a little bit too long on that middle section and we don't leave enough time for the kind of end, for the decline and the reconciliation at the end. I think the bit with Sidney Fife going, "Can I borrow some money?" has a bit of potential. There's potential there because it is so, as Paul was saying, it's so out of the blue. I mean, I've watched this film, as I said, over 5 times, and I'm still like, "Oh, is this all a scam? Is this all a scam?" But the fact it's so short, that section, it's too throwaway. But if you had extended that section of the film a little bit more, you could have played with that because it's so out of the blue. That's a good thing actually in this case because oh wait, is this all a scam? And then you can actually, extend that and maybe draw out the tension a little bit more. Maybe actually properly wonder whether Sidney actually is a con man, because he has the traits of a con man. If you really think about it, he has those character traits of being direct, being honest, getting Peter to become this new person, kind of changing him a little bit, bringing him into his head. He has those kind of more sinister traits if you played around with it a bit more. So that was kind of my only kind of negative point about the film, was this kind of section was a bit off. So, Joseph, what do you think? I know this is your film, so I'm going to give you a chance to defend it if you disagree. But what did you think about the kind of decline part of the film?
Well, I completely agree with you there, Craig. I think they didn't spend enough time on that decline bit, and I think that it would have been really good for the rom-com genre to have a bigger focus on this decline bit, because both Jason Segel and Paul Rudd have got cracking serious acting chops on them. And they could have really played that whole, is he a con man? Isn't he? That sort of thing. But then it probably would sort of start veering away from rom-com if they focus too much on that, if you kind of get what I mean. I think the decline is the actual plot point of it, the breakup, I don't really care for in films because it's so cliche. It's so, you're expecting it and in the end it's going to be fine. So I didn't really focus too much on that when I was rewatching it this time. I'm more focused on the fact that there's 3 separate relationships in the film that are all about love. There's the relationship between Peter and Sydney, that bromance. There's Peter and Zoe, his fiance, the new sort of just about to be married relationship. Then there's the older marriage between Denise. Is it Denise? And Jon Favreau. And it kind of shows 3 aspects of that relationship. There's the new blossoming one, the one that's getting ready to settle down, then the one that has settled and they've come into a rut. And it's in the decline that you kind of feel all three of these relationships come to a head, but not in like the overblown dramatic way that most rom-coms do it. It seems very serious and very true to life. Like when Peter confronts Sydney about the billboards, it's not like a big shouting match. There's not a fight like you would probably see between, I don't know, Ryan Reynolds and someone else for like comedy factor. It's just this very understated, low moment. And it kind of harkens back to what Sydney does during the toast when he completely blunders about and insinuates that Zoe should go down on Peter more. And you kind of, Sydney goes into that. You can see on his face that he's thinking, oh, this is another moment that I've kind of cocked up. But then just through it, and it just shows that, you know, Jason Segel really understands the script as well and the plot points, that he realizes, oh no, this is a moment I've completely mucked up. And it's this really sad moment between the two, because you genuinely think as you're going back to watch it, oh no, these guys they're not friends anymore. And that hurts more than losing love, I think. At least that's why I feel watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the running alongside it is Zoe and Peter. They kind of like start to fizzle a wee bit because of, you know, Peter not realizing when to ask questions. It kind of comes back to his social ineptitude, really. And then with Denise and Jon Favreau, there's clearly just like some grate in there. There's something going on that we don't really understand till the end. And I think all three of these are a really accurate representation. Everyone's really honest with each other. There's not that bit where they're standing out in the rain with the boombox trying to win each other back. They just go up to each other and be like, look, I was a bit of a dick. The other person goes, I was a bit of a dick as well. Let's just make up. And it happens at different points. You know, we see Peter and Zoe make up, and it's just like they've clearly both been thinking about it, and they've clearly both realized we've overreacted here, and it's a nice like reunion. Then during the wedding, we get Sydney and Peter, sort of the climax of the film, where they're, you know, they finally say, you know, the tagline, "I love you, man," and then in the end credits, we get the sort of like the culmination of Denise and Jon Favreau's relationship. They realize, you know, they're both trying to have a baby, and that's why they're constantly at each other's throats, because they could be thinking, you know, we're not conceiving. Is it my fault? Is it your fault? That sort of thing. And so it's like that decline sort of stage really, instead of hamming up the rom-com aspects, it really brings it true to life for me. And I think that's why it's a really powerful part of the film.
Yeah, I think you're being very kind to Jon Favreau's character there. I think he's a bit of an arsehole, to be honest with you. But
oh, he is, but you can see him having so much fun with it.
Yeah, no, he's very good. He's very, very good. As I said, it's a great ensemble piece. Mark, do you have anything to add about the kind of decline aspect of the film?
Yeah. One of the interesting things about this film for me was that it's very close to the bone to my life, since I do live with my partner and my best friend.
All right.
Both who are in my film Guardians, and so a lot of the bits where it gets to the decline, I have experienced firsthand, definitely. You know, I mean, so David, who is Lavender in Guardians, he is a hugely inappropriate human being in reality, and so he's that type of person who will say stupid shit at a meal, or to your partner's face, or to whatever, and put me in a deeply awkward position, and therefore I, you know, so the fact that we all live together now, it's only because of the pandemic he's had to kind of move in with us. These issues have come up, these moments have come up in my life, and so I was like, this is all quite good. This is all quite accurate, you know, because my partner is always like, well, now you're living with your best friend now. This is amazing for you. And I was like, yeah, but the tension's pretty high, isn't it? So it's not perfect. So that was why I liked that bit, and also why I found the very end quite unsatisfying, because I didn't feel like it worked anything out. I felt like it was just, she saw he was sad, he was coming anyway, and it happened, and that was that. And there was no kind of resolution, really. There was no one changed, as before we said, other than Rashida Jones, who just kind of gave in, I guess. And so that kind of disappointed me, but I felt the lead up to that was very accurate. So I think that's why the disappointment was felt. because I thought, yes, this is spot on, and I wanted it to be handled a bit more. But I think that's what you say. It's like there was probably too much time spent on the midsection and not enough time in the final act.
Yeah.
And I think that would have remedied it a tad.
Yeah, exactly. I think another thing for me though, for the end part as well, is #justice for Robbie. Like poor Robbie. Like he got said, yeah, you're my best man now, and he's like, oh my god, yeah, this means the world to me. And then suddenly like, oh, he's here. Oh, never mind. It's just like,
yeah, that was a nice moment, and it was thrown away. But it was because that was such a nice thing that wasn't explored. So that should have been given more weight. I think.
Yeah, because like as it was established, he's like 8 years younger than Paul Rudd's character in the film. Like that'd be a big deal for a little brother of that age to be asked to be your big brother who you've probably looked up to a lot throughout your life, be their best man. I feel like actually that should have just been kept, because I think what could have happened was at the end, Jason Segel could have kind of come in and just kind of been there, and we know that he's there and he's watching the ceremony happen. But actually, Robbie is the best man, and then afterwards, you could have a bit more time to like go through that kind of reconciliation and all, resolve all these issues. I think that maybe would have been a slightly better thing. And as I said, #justice for Robbie, you know? So we have come towards the end of the film, but now we need to work out how well we've all been paying attention. So we've got a new game, as you know, if you've been keeping up with the show in the Battle Royale season. So the winner of the episode has created 8 questions for the rest of the panel. These are questions that they think are really going to trip them up. You had to really be paying attention to the film to get them right. So over to you, Joseph, for 8 questions to fool them all.
8 questions to fool them all. Thank you very much, Craig. And we will start with the unfortunate loser of the Battle Royale. Paul, the first question comes to you, my man. The question is, what did Peter say was the best night he had in the last 5 years?
Sitting in with Rashida Jones watching Chocolat.
I will give you the point for that. It was they split a bottle of wine, made a summer salad, and watched the film Chocolat. I mean, okay. I would love to do that. So you get a point, Paul.
First time for everything.
What was the slogan on the first Peter Clavin billboard that the audience sees? Not what he sees, what the audience sees.
Is that the license to sell?
It is licensed to sell. So you get a point for that. It was above the car that he's in before he sees.
I knew.
I'm so glad we did not pick the same one, Joseph.
I've already changed 2 of these. Don't worry. Craig.
Yes.
Sydney has a rare blood type. What is it?
Oh, it's because it's not accurate in the film. That was a fun fact in the film. It wasn't. It was portrayed inaccurately. I'm going to say it's. I think it's. Is it AB negative?
It is AB negative. Oh, very, very keen eyes. Very keen eyes. Mark, during the poker game, what hand does Peter have that leads to Jon Favreau calling him a fucking asshole?
It's a flush, isn't it? A rainbow.
Yes, it is. It's a rainbow flop flush. Very, very keen. I've got no points so far. Well, but round 2, the second set of questions are harder this time. The nursery. When Peter asks Sydney to be his best man, which Frank Sinatra song is playing in the background?
My Way?
No, I'm sorry, incorrect. It's Ain't That a Kick in the Head?
Sorry.
Isn't that a kick in the head?
That is a kick in the head. Oh, Peter famously drives a Volkswagen Passat, but what kind of car does his fiancée Zoe drive?
Oh, fuck.
That was nearly fuck you,
I'm going to say a Volkswagen Beetle.
See, Paul, it's funny you should say that, because when I was making these originally, I was making them multiple choice, and that was one of the answers. It's incorrect, though. It's a red Mini Cooper.
God.
Second point to me.
It's getting tense. 4-2. Here we go.
Mark, other than Sydney, please name all 6 of Peter's groomsmen. For this, I will accept their IMDb character name or the actor's name.
Oh, fuck. Well, it's Lou Ferrigno was definitely one of them, wasn't he?
That's one.
Shit. Yeah, Joe Latruglio, whose name I've completely forgotten.
Lonnie, the voice crack guy.
Then there was his his wronged gay not lover. Oh, shit, what's his name? You said it earlier. I've completely forgotten it.
Come on.
Similar to a beetle.
Similar to a beetle.
As in the band, not the insect.
Don't give clues, Paul. You're only confusing them.
I need a name, Mark. I need a name.
Shit. Wasn't it Adam Sandberg one of them?
Wasn't Adam
Bobby
Sandberg?
or something?
Robbie, yeah, Robbie was Andy Sandberg.
Andy Sandberg. Shit, Adam Sandberg's the other guy. Fuck! Oh, God, you said it earlier. God, that's so annoying. Was it, I mean, his dad, J.K. Simmons?
Yes,
Dad.
J.K. Simmons, Oswald Clavin.
Oswald, Jesus Christ.
You've mentioned one of them, but you just haven't said the name, Mark.
I haven't said his name. I know, because it's not like Bob or... Oh, it's the old guy as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
The old guy, yes.
What's his name?
What's his name? You're running out of time here, Mark.
I don't know. I've blanked.
Oh, well.
I got 4. I'm okay with that.
Well, you were very, very close there, Mark. It was Mel Stein, who's the old man, and Doug, who was the wrong gay lover.
Right,
so that's a point to me. So it's 4-3 currently. The last question is it? It was for Craig, wasn't it? The last question.
Yep.
Craig, where are Peter's fencing buddies heading for Eugene's bachelor party / camping trip?
Oh no.
Oh, this should be easy. You've seen this film like 9 or 10 times, right, Craig?
We're on the same team, man. Oh, right. I know it's for the win. But I'm really struggling. Fencing
We
buddies.
jump in.
No,
It's got to be the person who answers. V, you're really good at this, by the way. You've definitely paid attention if you know that. I know it's not this, but I'm going to have to Vegas. Sorry.
Vegas. Unfortunately, Craig, it was Joshua Tree.
So
that's
no!
4-all. It's 4-all. But I do have a tiebreaker question.
Let's go to V. V's doing it. We nominate V.
He's going to give it to me.
So
Oh.
anyone can jump in
Oh.
on this question. In multiple scenes, we see Sydney wear the same white t-shirt with yellow vertical stripes. However, what was written upon that t-shirt? Now I need the accurate phrase.
Can you ask me about his footwear? I remember that.
No.
No.
Not got it.
No.
Rush.
Related.
It was not Rush.
Okay. Right, Paul. Joseph, tell us.
Phrase on the t-shirt was vagabond auntie.
Oh, V.
I do actually remember.
I wouldn't have got that. In
Joseph, what a comeback, Joseph. You were 4-0 down. Wow. Great
Call
game.
me the comeback kid.
Yeah. Great game. Right, thanks, Joseph. So, before we finish up our film chat and go over to our interview with Mark, let's just quickly have a quick round of buy, rent, or refund. So if you don't know what that is, buy means that you're going to add this film to your collection. You want to watch it again and again. Rent means that you enjoy the film, but in no hurry to rewatch. You'll recommend it to those who you think might enjoy it. And refund means not a chance, never watching this piece of crap again. Okay, so Mark, I'll come to you, you're the guest. So Mark, give us buy, rent, or refund for I Love You Man.
Oh, let's see, because I'm a physical media man, so I buy everything, even if I don't like it a lot of the time. Can I buy it in a sale?
Fair enough.
I'll definitely buy it in a sale for $5.99.
Well, it was £6 on Amazon. It was £6 on Amazon. So there you go. Right, V, what about you? Buy, rent, or refund?
I would buy,
Awesome.
because you could just watch it again and again and just laugh at the same stuff.
Yeah. Paul, dare I ask, buy, rent, or refund?
Well, I'll have a think here. I think I would maybe go for rent because it's great for just sitting down, and then you've kind of forgotten what the movie's about by the time it finishes, anyway. So yeah, I'll go for rent.
Okay, Paul. Thank you. Joseph, the patron of the film, buy, rent, or refund?
I would buy this film.
Awesome. And I did buy this film because I had lost the DVD. So I did buy this film on Amazon, and I do not regret it one bit. So I'm definitely a buy, and I think that makes it a buy. So I think is that our first buy? Is that our first buy on the show? I don't know if it is. It's certainly my first buy. So I love you, man. It's a buy. Let us know though. What do you think? Buy, rent, or refund? At 100 Film Reviews on Facebook and Twitter. Let us know in the comments. Get us on Twitter. Buy, rent, or refund. I love you, man. So
come on and at me.
So
I'm ready for it.
that brings us nicely into our final segment, and we're over to Paul, and I'm quite nervous for this, but here we go. Paul, over to you for What Might Have Been.
So I watched Bridget Jones's Diary out of spite. I watched it, and you know what? I thought to myself, wow, what a great rom-com this is. What a great, terrific rom-com this is. Because if I Love You Man is subverting the genre, then Bridget Jones's Diary is the perfection of the genre. It's executing the genre with perfect precision, like execution. Because you've got yourself this girl who is, she's doing all right. She's living in a nice flat in London with her pals. And she goes and she's working, and then the company boss, Hugh Grant, everyone's favorite rascal, Hugh Grant, he's the boss guy. He's suave. He's a player. We don't know that. We think he's great. We love him. We get into a fling with him, and then he turns out to be a bit of a knob. But there's also a bit of a knob at the start with Colin Firth, but he turns out to be a bit more interesting and a little less knobbish. So he is he turns out to be really nice in the end, and they have this fantastic fight scene where it's raining men playing, and they go through a restaurant, and it's all terribly British but also wonderful. The comedy in Bridget Jones is it's very British in comparison with I Love You Man. So it was interesting watching the two bounce off one another, after watching one after another, because it is kind of like watching the British Office and the British and the American Office, because it's just like wacky, funny, big, stepping in dog shit humor. And then it's also, it's like subtle, like real awkward.
Bridget Jones is subtle, is it? Bridget Jones is subtle. Okay, yeah. Carry
on. Certain aspects. I'm not saying it's the supreme subtle film of the decade, but I think it does certain things a lot better. And I think overall, it's actually a pretty funny film, not to be missed. And those knickers are huge.
Again, another soundbite. Thanks, Paul. You're full of these today, right? Perfect. So, thank you very much, Paul, for What Might Have Been. Has anyone else seen Bridget Jones? Very quickly, out of interest. I've not seen it. I've never seen it, actually. Yeah.
I actually thought I hadn't, but I have. So I think I was thinking of Bridget Jones's Baby, which I was thinking of.
There's a trilogy. There's a trilogy of this film which speaks to it, which is a testament. What's the trilogy for I Love You Man again?
It doesn't need one.
Oh, right, because it didn't. Right,
because the all they needed was in that first film. Whereas, let's face it, we all know trilogies are just a money grab.
Oh, right, yes, of course. The Lord, tell that to the Lord of the Rings.
I'll get Peter Jackson on the blower right now.
I did think they could have had a sequel though, because there's a line at the end where he goes, "I love you, man," and he goes, "I love you, man, too, bud. I love you too, bud." And I was thinking that would be a great name for a sequel. I love you too, bud.
Paul Rudd, Jason Segel, if you are watching, we're free agents.
Yes. free to be.
I do actually like you, Paul Rudd and Jason Segel. You know, I do like you. I don't know if I loved you here.
Okay. Well, let's not turn off any more viewers, guys. I mean, we need all the help we can get here, you know.
A great shame rests over this house.
This house is a bloody monster.
I just wanted somewhere quiet to think that was cost effective.
What the hell have you got yourself into?
I know what you're thinking, and no, you're not looking after an Austrian sex prison.
So there's someone else.
2 guardians for every property. It's policy, son.
This is your first house, yes? I can tell.
What is this place? Have you been sneaking people in while I've been asleep?
This is a life, no rent, no ties. Next round, on you. Did you think for 1 minute that it might have been an act of friendship? Ghost got you spooked?
Bugger! I do not feel I can live with this man any longer.
Don't think I'm stupid enough to get in a fight sober, do you?
Why don't you put Mr. Lavender on?
Hey, hello? What's going on?
Keep it down, love. We'll get to you in a second.
So, thank you very much, guys, for the chat about Olivia Man. So, over to Mark now. Mark, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's been great talking to you about the film, but now you get to promote your stuff, as we said. So, you're here to talk about 2 projects. We've got Guardians and Dead on the Vine. We'll start with Guardians. Now, I was lucky enough to have actually seen Guardians because I think it premiered, Scottish premiere, was it? HB Film Festival, yeah. So I was there anyway because one of my films, Hideous, was there. So I was in the audience watching that, and then this was like the prime feature of the day, which was Guardians. Honestly, I wish you could have seen the audience part. We were absolutely dying with laughter, man. The whole audience loved the film. It was absolutely brilliant, and I'd recommend it wholeheartedly to everyone who's watching the show, for example, and everyone else on the panel too. Yeah, definitely go away and watch it. So you wrote and directed Guardians. So can you tell us where did the idea come from, and what's the film about?
The idea came from general desperation to make a feature film because I've been down that road many times, mostly as a writer, getting down the line and then things just falling apart for a variety of different reasons. And then I'd had one film I did get made and was at Cannes and everything, but it was horseshit. It was I didn't direct it or produce it, I just wrote it, and I was deeply unsatisfied. And it featured quite a lot of people from Guardians in it who were mostly my friends, and we were all kind of disappointed with the product. And so I'd kind of just got back into directing after ages out just writing, and so I was just wanting to make a film, and I live in the house that Guardians is shot in, and this is it.
Awesome! Oh, that's great. It's such a cool house. It's a really cool house.
Yeah, it was my partner Victoria who plays Eleanor in the film. She's my partner, and that screening in Scotland was her family's first time seeing it as well, and so her 84-year-old auntie and 12-year-old nephew, she was mildly concerned about what their reactions were going to be, but they enjoyed it, so it was okay. So anyway, I thought, I've got this house, I've got these actors, and I'd heard about this, well, through various actors, about the guardianship kind of thing that happens quite a lot in London anyway, of people looking after big houses, old houses, stately homes, or venues of some sort, just really underqualified security, essentially. And so I thought, okay, that could work. And so I just wrote the plot and everything around all my friends, wrote the parts rather, around all my friends who I wanted to work with. And the story just developed from there. You know, they're all kind of parts written specifically for everyone in the film, pretty much. And it kind of developed naturally, really, and worked out okay.
Yeah. And did you enjoy being both the writer and director on this, or was it quite a daunting prospect at the time?
Yeah, I mean that kind of thing can shift from project to project, but in this particular one, it was great. I loved it. Like I said, I was just working with most of my best friends on a daily basis for like 10 days solid, and having a good time. And it wasn't so hard because I've worked with them so much in the past that, and as I said, the parts were written for them, that on set directing from an acting point of view was virtually zero.
Mm-hmm.
So it was actually quite easy and quite pleasant for the most part, and it was just really the time of getting it all in the can was the hard bit.
Yeah, awesome. And where can people find Guardians just now to watch it?
In the UK, it's on Sky Store, iTunes, and Amazon Prime. So you can pay for it on Sky Store, pay for it on iTunes, or get it for free on Amazon Prime. In the US, it's just on iTunes and Amazon Video at the moment.
Awesome.
And in Canada.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely check it out, guys, if you are interested. Definitely. It's a really, really good film. Very, very funny. So we also mentioned you've got a new thriller, Dead on the Vine, which you filmed during the easing of the first UK lockdown. So what were the kind of challenges filming in those kind of circumstances, and what's the film about?
The film's a thriller set in a vineyard in East Sussex. And it was, again, we thought it was going to be really challenging, and it was in some aspects for the COVID safety and all that kind of thing. And the process, we thought Guardians was done fast, and it wasn't, because me and my producer Laura, we kind of thought of the idea to do it in like April, and from the idea to actually getting it in the can was we shot it at the end of July. So we wrote the script, planned it all, rehearsed it, recce'd the venue and everything in May, June, July. So 3 months it took. So that was the challenge of just really putting it all together was the main challenge. Once we were on set, it was actually quite glorious because everyone had been locked down for weeks and weeks and weeks, and this was pretty much the first week after we'd been allowed out, where everything was still shut. So hence the reason we were allowed on the vineyard, because it's a restaurant, it's a hotel as well, and so that was still shut down. And so we had the run of the place, 77 acres of whatever we wanted.
Awesome. And
it was beautiful weather, and we were all kind of camping there or staying in the vineyard or nearby. And so the space, the thing it was amazing. And as long as we didn't hug and stay too close and all wore masks, depending on where the bit was, it was fine, and it all went quite swimmingly.
Yeah, that sounds great. That'd be a great experience to be in. Yeah, definitely sounds great. So, finally, where can people find you on social media to kind of keep up with all you've got going on?
I'm on Twitter, Instagram, not so much Facebook these days, just business. So Twitter, it's Mark A.C. Brown, and Dead on the Vine is Dead on the Vine 2020, I think, on Twitter. Wait a second, let me check. I always forget which one's which. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, so actually Twitter is Dead on the Vine M1. Not sure about that, why that is. I think they assigned that to me and I wasn't looking. But Dead on the Vine M1 is that one, and Guardians is Guardians BHF, Brainhound Films. And on Instagram, it's Mark ACB Film, and Dead on the Vine 2020. Awesome. Thanks, Mark.
Mark, thank you so much for coming on this show. Thanks so much for chatting to us about all your projects. Wish you all the best with Dead on the Vine. I'm hopefully get up to HV Film Festival again if you can, and it'd be great to see it for sure. Yeah. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, V, Joseph, Paul, as always, for joining me. And as always, we finish with a life lesson. So what life lesson can we take from I Love You Man? Well, I think it's quite simple. Friendships are important. In fact, I would say that maybe friendships are sometimes more important than your relationship. You know, guys, sometimes you've just got to go out with the lads, don't you? You've got to go out with the bros. You've got to give some time to your male friends. Sometimes you just got to push the girl aside for a little bit. In fact, men, tell your women that. Oh, hi, babe. Yeah. Yeah. Just filming the show, yeah. Yeah, we can have a talk later. Yeah. Okay. See you next time. And scene. Thank you guys.
You managed to break my icy stare there.
Look of fury on V's face there. Push you on the side. What?
This is why
Taekwondo.
This is why I had to make it clear in the chat yesterday, guys, that it was an act because people were killing me.
But mankind won't be destroyed. The fact that you and I are working here